maybe spend a few minutes with the very end of Half-Blood Prince, which I left my book at home, but I have it on my Kindle. And I'd like to real briefly look at the chapter, I forgot what it's called, The Flight of the Half-Blood Prince, which is chapter, hold on, I thought it was towards the end there. Chapter 28, and I'm picking up, it looks like right around in the middle of that chapter, and it says Snape is fleeing and Harry's running after him. Harry tries to curse him, tries to hit him with some spells and such. And he starts to do the Crucio on Snape for attention. We hear Cruce, but Snape parried the curse, knocking Harry backward off his feet before he could complete it. Harry rolled over and scrambled back up again. As the huge Death Eater behind him yelled Incendio, Harry heard an explosive bang. Hagrid's house is on fire. And Fang's in there. Harry yells Cruce for the second time, aiming for the figure ahead, illuminated in the dancing firelight, but Snape blocked the spell again. Harry sees him sneering. Snape says, "No unforgivable curses from you, Potter." He shouted over the rushing of the flames, and then he says, "You haven't got the nerve or the ability." Harry starts to yell something. Snape deflects the spell. Harry, fight back! Fight back, you cowardly! Why does he yell at Snape to fight back? Okay, first of all, what is Snape doing? If Harry yells at him to fight back, what's he not doing? He's not using offensive spells. He's not using attacking spells. We're told all he does is he parries. Okay? Harry spells. Now, what has Harry just witnessed? Just prior to this. Snape killed Dumbledore. Okay? So he thinks Snape is thoroughly rotten bad. And yet Snape isn't attacking him. Fight back, you cowardly. Coward, did you call me, Potter? Your father would never attack me unless it was 4-on-1. What would you call him, I wonder? Stupid, and Snape blocks again. But this time, Snape taunts him. Blocked again and again and again. Until you learn to keep your mouth shut and your mind closed, Potter. What does Snape mean?
About Voldemort.
Okay, about Voldemort. Keep your mouth shut. What has Snape been trying to teach them all year long? Nonverbal spells. Okay? But then he adds the mind closed. He's still teaching. Harry's not picking up on this. Snape is still teaching him to do what? Close your mind. Shut it off. Okay? Now come, he shouts at the Death Eater behind Harry. It's time to be gone before the ministry turns up. Impedit, and before he could finish this, excruciating pain hit Harry. He keeled over in the grass. Someone was screaming. He would surely die of this agony. Snape was going to torture him to death or madness. Harry is put under a Crucio curse, but it's not by Snape. No! Roared Snape's voice, and the pain stopped as suddenly as it had started. Harry lay curled on the dark grass, clutching his wand and panting. Somewhere overhead, Snape was shouting, "Have you forgotten our orders? Potter belongs to the Dark Lord. We're to leave him alone." And Harry felt the ground shudder under his face as the brother and sister and the enormous Death Eater, the Carrows, obeyed, running toward the gates. Harry uttered an inarticulate yell of rage. In that instant, he cared not whether he lived or died. And he starts to yell, Sectum. He knows what it does this time. And Snape flicks his wand. Notice how easy it is for Snape to just kind of swat Harry's spells away like they're mosquitoes. Snape flicked his wand, and the curse was repelled yet again. But Harry was mere feet away now, and he could see Snape's face clearly at last. He was no longer sneering or jeering. The blazing flame showed a face full of rage. No, Potter. There's a loud bang, and Harry was soaring backward, hitting the ground hard again, and his wand flew out of his hand. He could hear Fang. You dare use my own spells against me, Potter. It was I who invented them, I, the half-blood prince. And you'd turn my inventions on me like your filthy father, would you? I don't think so. Harry goes for his wand. Snape knocks the wand farther away. Notice what Snape doesn't do to the wand. He doesn't break it. He doesn't take it. He could do Oxia wand and have Harry's wand. He doesn't. Okay. If Snape really wanted to leave Harry defenseless against the Dark Lord, he would take his wand. You dare use, he goes on, kill me then, Prince Harry. Kill me like you killed him, you coward. Don't, screamed Snape, and his face was suddenly demented and human, as though he was in as much pain as the yelping, howling dog stuck in the burning house. Don't call me coward. And Harry feels something hot and whip-like hit him across the face. Okay? And Buckbeak shows up. And Snape leaves. Harry tells everybody that Snape killed Dumbledore. And Hagrid can't believe it. Harry says, I saw it, Hagrid. This is a few pages later. Hagrid shakes his head, disbelieving. What must have happened was Dumbledore must have told Snape to go with them Death Eaters. I suppose he's got to keep his cover. Look, let's get you back up to the school, Harry. Okay. Harry explains to them again, Snape killed Dumbledore. He goes with Hagrid, he sees Dumbledore. His eyes are closed. Because he's dead. Okay? And he pulls out the locket and opens it. And in the locket he sees a note. To the Dark Lord, I know I will be dead long before you read this, but I want you to know that it was I who discovered your secret. I have stolen the real Horcrux and intend to destroy it as soon as I can. I face death in the hope that when you meet your match, you will be mortal once more. R.A.B. Then we get the Phoenix Lament, and we find out Fawkes leaves, okay, Hogwarts, since Dumbledore is gone. Snape again is telling everybody, Harry is again telling everybody, Snape killed Dumbledore. They have a hard time believing it, but they do believe it. And then we get the, at the burial of Dumbledore, Harry comes up with the idea of not going back to school. And we're told a few pages in, he did not feel the way he had so often felt before, excited, curious, burning to get to the bottom of mystery. He simply knew that the task of discovering the truth about the real Horcrux had to be completed before he could move a little farther along the dark and winding path stretching ahead of him, the path that he and Dumbledore had set out upon together, and which he now knew he would have to journey alone. There might be still as many as 4 Horcruxes out there. Okay. He tells Hermione, and Hermione tells him what she discovered about Snape. His mother's name was Eileen Prince. Okay? And she says, he's just like Voldemort. Pure blood mother, muggle father. Ashamed of his parentage. Trying to make himself feared using the dark arts. Gave himself an impressive new name. The Half-Blood Prince. How could Dumbledore have missed? Okay? Harry goes on and says, Snape knew where I was getting my potions help from. Hermione, but why didn't he turn you in? Harry, I don't think he wanted to associate himself with the book. I don't think Dumbledore would have liked it very much if he had known. Harry goes on and says, all that time he was showing me how Voldemort was evil, even when he was at school. And I had proof Snape was too. Hermione, well, come on, Harry. Evil's a strong word. You were the one who kept telling me the book was dangerous. Ron, none of us could have guessed Snape would, you know. And they're at the funeral, and we're told Harry's sitting there thinking. He wondered whether Dumbledore's death would be more real to him once it was over. Though he had moments when the horrible fact of it threatened to overwhelm him. There were blank stretches of numbness where, despite the fact that nobody was talking about anything else in the whole castle, he still found it difficult to believe that Dumbledore had really gone. Admittedly, he had not, as he had with Sirius, looked desperately for some kind of loophole. Some way that Dumbledore could have come back. He felt in his pocket for the cold chain of the fake Horcrux, which he now carried with him everywhere, not as a talisman, but as a reminder of what it had cost and what remained still to do. Okay? He looks over at the Slytherin table the next day, last day of school. He sees Malfoy, and Harry thinks. Harry did not believe that Malfoy would have killed Dumbledore. He despised Malfoy still for his infatuation with the dark arts. But now the tiniest drop of pity mixed with his dislike. Where, Harry wondered, was Malfoy now? Sorry, Malfoy's not there. And what was Voldemort making him do under threat of killing him and his parents? And he goes off, and we see Dumbledore's body replaced with the white tomb. And Harry looks at Ginny, and he tells her, I can't be involved with you anymore. We've got to stop seeing each other. We can't be together. It's for some stupid, noble reason, isn't it? Harry, it's like something out of someone else's life these last few weeks with you. But I can't. I've got things to do alone. And he explains to her, Voldemort will use you to get at me. And they keep talking. And she concludes by saying, but you've been too busy saving the wizarding world, said Ginny, half laughing. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. I knew this would happen in the end. That is, I knew you would leave me in the end. I knew you wouldn't be happy unless you were hunting Voldemort. Maybe that's why I like you so much. Harry could not bear to hear these things, nor did he think his resolution would hold if he remained sitting beside her. Ron, he saw, was now holding Hermione and stroking her hair while she sobbed into his shoulder, tears dripping from the end of his own long nose. With a miserable gesture, Harry got up, turned his back on Ginny and on Dumbledore's tomb, and walked away around the table. And Grimsure shows up and wants to know if Harry will help him now, and Harry says, nope. Still Dumbledore's man through and through. And he tells Ron and Hermione that he's not coming back to school. He's got to go off and find the Horcruxes. And he says, I'm going to start at Godric's Hollow. For me, it started all there. His life started there, etc. Ron, and then what? Well, I've got to track down the rest of the Horcruxes, haven't I? Okay? And Ron says, we'll be there. Harry, when? When you're at Uncle's house. That is, when you turn 17, we'll be there and we'll go with you wherever you're going. Harry, no. Hermione says, we're with you whatever happens. Okay? And that book then ends, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows opens. Look at the epigraphs at the opening of Deathly Hallows. The first one is from a 4th century, I think, 4th or 5th century BC Greek dramatist, Aeschylus. And the second one from a, 18th century, early 18th century, American/British writer, William Penn. Aeschylus and the Libation Bearers. Oh, the torment bred in the race, the grinding scream of death and the stroke that hits the vein, the hemorrhage none can staunch, the grief, the curse no man can bear. But there is a cure in the house, and not outside it, no. Not from others, but from them, their bloody strife. We sing to you, dark gods beneath the earth. Now hear, you blissful powers underground, answer the call, send help, bless the children, give them triumph now. The Libation Bearers is a one play out of a 3-play sequence that is about these 2 children, they're adult children at this point, however, who are essentially seeking vengeance or justice for the death of their father. Okay? Their father was Agamemnon. He was killed by his wife Clytemnestra. And so, I'm trying to remember the character's name. Orestes, the son, kills his mother. Because he kills his mother, these characters that are called the Furies or the Harpies come after him and hound him. Okay? And what's being sung here is by the chorus in this play, and they're saying, you gods beneath the earth, help these children. Help them, why? Because they need defense. Okay? And then we get William Penn's. Death is but crossing the world as friends do the seas. They live in one another still. For they must needs be present that love and live in that which is omnipresent. What is that which is omnipresent? Love. In this divine glass they see face to face. That is, they see clearly, without any obfuscation, without anything standing in the way. And their converse is free as well as pure. This is the comfort of friends, that though they may be said to die, yet their friendship and society are, in the best sense, ever present, because immortal. That is, death is not an end, it's a beginning. Okay? Here, it's described almost as, it's a beginning as a conversation, face to face with those that we love. Seeing clearly, as St. Paul says, seeing as we are seeing, knowing as we are known. St. Paul says in Corinthians, now we see, but through a glass darkly, meaning our lenses are dirty. But then, he means in heaven, we shall see as we are seen, perfectly, clearly. Think Tolkien's idea of recovery. Okay? We start with the Dark Lord ascending. And we see 2 people, Snape and Yaxley, and they make their way down the long path to Malfoy's house. And we go into Malfoy's house and we see a gathering of Death Eaters in Voldemort. And at this gathering of Death Eaters, there's Malfoy, there's Narcissa Malfoy, there's Bellatrix, there's Draco. Snape shows up along with Yaxley. Okay? And we see a teacher suspended in midair over the table. And I'm going to pick up around page 5 or so. Dumbledore is speaking, and Dumbledore says, as long as our friend Thickness is not discovered before he has converted the rest. Who's he talking about? Converted the rest. Ministry of Magic. The character he's talking about, Pious Thickness. Pious. What does it mean? Full of devotion. Okay? Pious Thickness is supposed to convert the rest. That is religious language. Voldemort is talking about this guy converting people at the Ministry of Magic. How does he mean convert? Putting them under imperious curses. Okay? So they keep talking. And Voldemort asks for Malfoy's wand. Your wand, Lucius. I require your wand. What is it? My lord. In the core, elm, my lord. In the core, dragon heartstring. Good, says Voldemort. He draws his own wand out, compares the lengths. Malfoy thinks Voldemort's going to give him his wand. He'll take Malfoy's, and Malfoy will take Voldemort's. Give you my wand, Lucius, my wand? I've given you your liberty, Lucius. Is that not enough for you? I notice you don't seem happy of late. What is it about my presence in your home that displeases you? Well, nothing, my lord. Such lies. The snake comes in. Towards the middle of that page. Why do the Malfoys look so unhappy with their lot? Is my return, my rise to power, not the very thing they profess to desire? Of course, my lord, says Malfoy, whose hand shakes as he wipes sweat from his upper lip. Why is he sweating?
He's terrified.
Yeah, he's terrified. We do. Don't want to be called, caught saying that only in the past tense. Okay. And then Bellatrix opens her pile. It is an honor to have you here, etc., etc. Okay. Going about page 9 or so, and Voldemort addresses Snape. To bring Snape's attention to the figure rotating in the air above. Do you recognize our guest Severus? Severus, help me. Oh, yes. And you, Draco? Draco shakes his head. But you would not have taken her classes. For those of you who do not know, we are joined here tonight by Charity Burbage, who until recently taught at Hogwarts. Yes, Professor Burbage taught the children of witches and wizards all about muggles, how they are not so different from us. Severus, please, please. Silence. Not content with corrupting and polluting the minds of wizarding children, last week Professor Burbage wrote an impassioned defense of mudbloods in the Daily Prophet. And he kills her. And she falls onto the table where they've been eating, and he feeds her to Nagini. Chapter 2. Harry's getting ready for the Order of the Phoenix to come take him away. And we see, around page 15 or so, the long snippet, or the long article, by Ophias Doge about Dumbledore. The long obituary. Harry finishes reading it, and we're told he thought he knew Dumbledore quite well. But ever since reading this obituary, he'd been forced to recognize that he'd barely known him at all. Never once had he imagined Dumbledore's childhood or youth. It was as though he'd sprung into being as Harry had known him. Whose fault is that? Is it Dumbledore's fault? No, Harry never asked him. He had never thought to ask Dumbledore about his past. No doubt it would have felt strange and pertinent even, but, It had been common knowledge that Dumbledore had taken part in that legendary duel with Grindelwald. Harry had not thought to ask Dumbledore what that had been like, nor about any of his other famous achievements. He had failed to ask Dumbledore more about himself, even though the only personal question he'd ever asked his headmaster was also the only one he suspected that Dumbledore had not answered honestly. What do you see when you look in the mirror? I see myself holding socks. A pair of thick woolen socks. So then we see the next article by Rita Skeeter. And Harry gets to the end of that one, and what are we told? Revulsion and fury rose in him like vomit. He balled up the newspaper and threw it with all his force at the wall, where it joined the rest of the rubbish heap. And he sits down on the bed, and he sees the broken bit of mirror, and for a moment he sees a flash of blue eyes. Chapter 3, the Dursleys departing. Okay. Pick up around 33 or so. Vernon has decided he's not going to leave. And Harry's trying to talk him into leaving because of the danger they are in. He says these accidents aren't accidents. The crashes, explosions, derailments, whatever else has happened. People are disappearing and dying, and he's behind it, Voldemort. I've told you this over and over again. He kills muggles for fun. Even the fog is caused by Dementors. Dudley's hands jerk to his mouth because he remembers Dementors. There are more of them? Harry, more? More than the 2 that attacked us? Yes, hundreds, maybe thousands. So Vernon says, okay, you made your point. There's a brief silence in which the distant echo of Hagrid smashing down a wooden front door seemed to reverberate through the intervening years. Aunt Petunia was looking at Uncle Vernon. Dudley was staring at Harry. Finally, Uncle Vernon blurted out, but what about my work? What about Dudley's school? I don't suppose that matters to you. Okay? In other words, Vernon's saying, we have a life. Harry, don't you understand? They will torture and kill you like they did my parents. Dudley, Dad, I'm going with these order people. Dudley, for the first time in your life, you're talking sense. And he knew, once Dudley said he was going, Mommy and Daddy will go also. Okay? So he tells them they'll be here in about 5 minutes. The Order of the Phoenix arrives, and around page 36 or 38, 35, 36, something like that, Daedalus Diggle mutters to Hestia Jones, we should probably wait outside. That is, let's give Harry some private time with his family. Harry, there's no need. Vernon comes up to Harry. Well, this is goodbye then, boy. Swings his right arm upwards to shake Harry's hand, but at the last moment, makes a fist and swings it backwards and forwards like a metronome. Aunt Petunia, ready, Diddy? Dudley doesn't answer. Vernon and Petunia start to move, and Dudley's just standing there. But I don't understand. What don't you understand? Why isn't he coming with us? Now, if you've seen the film, from what I've been told, none of this is included. I don't know if it's on the additional features. in the DVD, why isn't he coming with us? What? Why isn't he coming too? Well, he doesn't want to. You don't want to, do you, Harry? Nope. Well, there you are now. Come on, Dudley. And Dudley's, rooted to the ground. What now? Where's he going? Aunt Petunia and Vernon look at each other. Hestia Jones, surely you know where your nephew's going. Well, yeah, he's going off with you lot. Us, our lot? Harry, don't worry about it. It's okay. Doesn't matter? Don't these people realize what you've been through? What danger you are in? The unique position you hold in the hearts of the anti-Voldemort movement? Harry, no, they don't. They think I'm a waste of space, actually. But I'm used to, and he doesn't get to finish saying it. They think I'm a waste of space, actually, but I'm used to, I don't think you're a waste of space. If Harry had not seen Dudley's lips move, he might not have believed it. As it was, he stared at Dudley for several seconds before accepting that it must have been his cousin who had spoken. For one thing, Dudley had turned red. Harry was embarrassed and astonished himself. Thanks, Dudley. You saved my life. Not really. It was your soul the Dementor would have taken. And Harry remembers back to earlier that morning. They had virtually no contact during this summer or last, as Harry had come back to Privet Drive so briefly and kept to his room so much. It now dawned on Harry, however, that the cup of tea on which he had trodden that morning might not have been a booby trap at all. Although rather touched, he was nevertheless quite relieved that Dudley appeared to have exhausted his ability to express his feelings. Why does Harry think about the cold cup of tea outside his bedroom that morning? When he got up in the morning, he thought it was a practical joke. He thought it was a way for Dudley to find out when Harry left his room. Because he steps out in the morning, he steps on the cup of tea. Okay? In other words, when he wakes up and he goes out his door that morning and he spills the tea, Harry immediately assumes or thinks the worst about why the cup of tea was put there. And now it dawns on him that it might not have been a booby trap. Meaning what? What does it now appear to him the cup of tea might have been?
A peace offering.
Peace offering? A gift? An expression of gratitude? Aunt Petunia bursts into tears. So sweet, Dutters. Such a lovely boy, saying thank you. But he hasn't said thank you, says Hestia Jones. All he said was he didn't think Harry was a waste of space. Look what Harry says. Okay? When Dumbledore told Harry at the end of Book 2, the night Voldemort attempted to kill you, he transferred some of his powers to you. Harry interpreted that to mean he put a bit of himself into me, Dumbledore says. Yes. That is, Dumbledore accepts Harry's interpretation. Now look what Harry does. He interprets what Dudley's saying, I don't think you're a waste of space. He hears those words, I don't think you're a waste of space, and that sounds like, but Harry makes it mean, I love you. Coming from Dudley, that's like, I love you. That's what Harry says Dudley meant by that. Okay? Why the hell do they leave that out of the film? Okay, let me rephrase it. Why am I spending so much time on it? Why is it significant? Happens less than 40 pages into the book. What is Harry showing there? And or what is Dudley showing there? What have Harry and Dudley been throughout the first six books? Enemies. Not just not liking each other. They've been enemies. They've hated each other's guts. Said Harry, torn between annoyance and a desire to laugh. Vernon, are we going or not? Yes, says Douglas. Okay. Harry tells them as they go out, I hope everything's okay. Dudley comes over to Harry. He releases his mother's clutch from him. He walks over to Harry, right, who had to repress an urge to threaten him with magic. And Dudley holds his hand out. Blimey, Dudley. Did the Dementors blow a different personality into you? Dunno. See you, Harry. What does he mean? Did the Dementors blow a different personality into you?
It was unlike me.
Yeah, keep going now. What almost happened to Dudley with the Dementors? He almost died, or he almost had his soul ripped out. You know, near-death experiences do strange things to people. Dunno. See you, Harry. What does that mean? Notice it's not bye. See you means see you later. I'll see you around. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not next year, but eventually. Harry, yeah. Taking Dudley's hand and shaking it. Maybe. Take care, Big D. Why is he calling Big D?
All his friends call him that.
Describe Dudley's friends, though. They're his what?
Lackey.
His lackeys? They're his gang. What's Harry saying? I'm part of your gang now, Dudley. You remember the scene, Order of the Phoenix? They're walking back from the playground. Oh, so you're Big D now, are you? To me, you'll always be Uncle Didykins. Where he's just, pressing all the right buttons. So when Harry says, yeah, maybe, take care, Big D, that means all that shit from their previous life, it's over. It's gone. What has happened between Harry and Dudley? Closure. What else? Describe it in another term. Alliance, close. Describe their relationship before. They hated each other. So what happens when you go from hate to what's going on here? Forgiveness. They have forgiven each other. Notice, do they have to say, I forgive you, do you forgive me? No, it's implied. It's implied. There is now a bond where there wasn't one before. There is now a relationship where there wasn't one before. Okay? As I said, this is redemption. A lot of Christians won't read these books because they say they're ultimately all about revenge. They're not. They're not at all about revenge. How do you know? We could go to the second to the last chapter. They omit something at the beginning of the 7th film, and they omit something at the end of the 8th film. And by omitting those two scenes, it's almost like the screenwriter gives in to that Christian caricature that the books are all about revenge. What is it they omit at the end? Assuming you've finished the book, and if you haven't, sorry, I'm going to give it away. What does Harry offer Voldemort in that battle? We're going to talk about coming up to it fairly soon. When he and Hermione and Ron go off, Hermione brings a bunch of books, and she talks to them about Horcruxes. And Harry's like, well, is there any way to fix a Horcrux? And she says, yeah, there is actually. But you have to show remorse, and you have to really mean it. That is, you have to be contrite. But she says, it's really painful. Harry comes back from the dead. He really is dead, by the way. He's dead. His body is unbreathing, dead. Harry comes back from the dead, and when he has his final match against Voldemort, he says, come on, Riddle. I've seen the real you. I know what you are. Be a man. Try for some remorse. What's he offering him?
Second chance.
Yes. Redemption. He's saying, I've seen the real you, and the real you is what he sees in the chapter King's Cross. It's that slimy, burned-looking, scaly thing hiding under a chair that he wants to help. And the Dumbledore in that chapter says he's beyond help. And Harry's thinking is, no one is beyond help. As long as there is breath in their lungs, they are not beyond help. Okay? So this book opens with the picture of kind of redemption offered and taken, and ends with redemption offered and not taken. Okay? Dudley nearly smiles and goes on from the room. Aunt Petunia says, well, goodbye. Harry, goodbye. And she stops and looks back at him. And for a moment, Harry had the strangest feeling that she wanted to say something to him. She gave him an odd, tremulous look. What does tremulous mean? She's shaking. It's like her mouth, her lips start to move, and then she stops. And with a little jerk of her head, she busses out of the room. Okay? Next chapter, the 7 Potters. The Order of the Phoenix arrived to take Harry away. And they're going to do it by using Polyjuice Potion. They're going to make 7 Potters. Why?
Mix it up so they don't know which one's the real one.
Mix it up so that the Dark Lord's forces don't know which one's the real one. Why else? What are the 7 Potters kind of like? Never thought about this before until just now. I've got this thing 20 times. How many Voldemorts are there out there?
Well, 7.
So it's almost like the 7 Potters are countering the Horcruxes of Voldemort. Now, they're not going to stay Potters, obviously. But notice also what happens when they do the Polyjuice Potion. This is about page 49 or so. Remember in what was it? Book 2, when they did the Polyjuice Potion for Crabbe and Goyle? What did the potion look like? Boogers, is what we're told. Like a vat of snot. Okay? About page 49, might be 48 in yours. They add Harry's hair to the mud-like liquid, that is, it looks brown. And the moment the hair makes contact, the potion froths and smokes and then turns a clear, bright gold. Why is it gold? purity. Ooh, you look much tastier than Crab and Goyle. And Ron looks like Hermione like, what? Well, you know, I mean, their potion looked like boogies, okay? So they all line up. And Harry goes off with Hagrid. On what? Whose motorcycle?
Series.
Sirius's. I've talked before in here, I think I have, that the series has what's called an envelope structure or ring structure. Book 1 has parallels with book 7. Book 2 has parallels with book 6. Book 3 has parallels with book 5. And 4 kind of stands off by itself. How does Harry arrive? With Hagrid on the motorcycle. He leaves with Hagrid on the motorcycle. When he arrives with Hagrid on the motorcycle, does he have an owl? No, he doesn't. When he leaves, that is, when he arrives at his destination, does he have an owl? No, he doesn't. He arrives and departs the same way. Okay? It's part of her wrapping up or tying together loose ends. Okay? So, they go up and they get attacked. They see Snape. Snape shoots a curse off. Okay? And very end of the chapter, last page, they see Voldemort actually. A hooded figure on a broomstick raises its arm. We hear no, and it's Voldemort. And Voldemort says Avada, and as the pain from Harry's scar forced his eyes shut, his wand acted of its own accord. He felt it drag his hand around, like some great magnet, saw a spurt of golden fire through his half-closed eyelids, heard a crack and a scream of fury, and Voldemort yells, no! And then he's asking somebody else for another wand. Okay? Chapter 5. Notice the games Rowling plays with readers. Fallen warrior. Hagrid? You first get to that chapter, and you see the title, Fallen Warrior, and the question, Hagrid? That's meant to tug at your heartstrings. Surely Hagrid hasn't died. There's a little clue given in book 2 that essentially suggests Hagrid is going to die, even though he doesn't within the whole series. Hagrid? Hagrid, talk to me. But the dark mass did not stir. Okay. Finally, Hagrid does open his eyes. And Rat Ted Tonks's, and Harry and Hagrid tell Tonks and Mrs. Tonks what happened. And then we see Mrs. Weasley comes in about page 66 or 67. And she says, thank goodness you're all right. Hagrid asks for some brandy. Lupin comes in. Okay. We see George brought into the house. George has been wounded. Lupin asks how they escaped. Around 68 or so. And Harry says, I saw Stan Shunpike, the bloke who was the conductor on the night bus. I tried to disarm him instead of, well, he doesn't know what he's doing, does he? He's imperious. All right. Lupin looks aghast. This is page 70, I think. Harry, the time for disarming is past. These people are trying to capture and kill you, at least stun, if you aren't prepared to kill. And Harry's looking at this rationally. He says, wait a second. We were up 100 feet in the air, hundreds of feet in the air. Stands on himself, and if I stunned him and he'd fallen, he'd have died the same as if I'd used Avada Kedavra. He'd have fallen off his broom. Expelliarmus saved me from Voldemort 2 years ago. Yes, Harry. And a great number of Death Eaters witnessed that happening. Forgive me, but it was a very unusual move then, under imminent threat of death. Repeating it tonight in front of Death Eaters who either witnessed or heard about the first occasion was close to suicidal. That is, as we're going to hear, they know that's your signature move. Okay? What did Dumbledore say Harry would have? What did the prophecy say Harry would have? Uncommon skill. What is Harry's uncommon skill? It's his use of Expelliarmus. Right? He would have power and an uncommon skill. Harry, so you think I should have killed him? Of course not. So Harry's thinking logically. Okay, so you don't want me to kill him, but you want me to stun him, which would have led to his death anyways, in which case I would have killed him. What do you want me to do, Lupin? Either way, he's dead. But the Death Eaters, frankly, most people would have expected you to attack back. Expelliarmus is a useful move, Harry, but the Death Eaters seem to think it is your signature move. And I urge you not to let it become so. I won't blast people out of my way just because they're there. That's Voldemort's job. Who else have we seen, though, blast people out of their way? That hasn't been Voldemort. James? Sirius? Snape? Okay. We find out the next page, George lost an ear. And Lupin says it was Snape's work. Harry, Snape? Around page 71 or so, I think it is. 70, 71, probably around page 72. Snape? He lost his hood during the chase. He used Sectum Sempra. Okay. They talked a little bit more, and Mrs. Weasley said, could have been much worse. He's alive. Yeah, said Harry, thank God. And we go and we see George on the next page. And Mrs. Weasley comes up to him and says, How do you feel, Georgie? George's fingers grope for the side of his head. And he's like, Saint-like. What? What's wrong with him, cries Fred. Is his mind affected? Saint-like. You see, looking at Fred's eyes, I'm holy. Holy, Fred. Get it? Mrs. Weasley sobs, and George says, pathetic, pathetic. With the whole wide world, Fred tells George, with the whole wide world of ear-related humor before you, you go for holy. Name one ear joke. The whole wide world of ear-related humor, and you go for holy? But think about it for a moment. What has Malfoy, Lucius, called Harry? Book 5. Patronus Potter. George lost an ear pretending to be Harry. Okay. And George lost an ear on Harry's behalf. He was fighting a battle for Harry. And George calls himself saint-like. Saint George? Saint George is in British mythology or in British religious culture, if you want to call it that. He's a very important saint. He's the patron saint of England. April 23rd is St. George's Day. Okay? The cross that you see in the British flag, the red cross, that's the George cross. That's why most monarchs, male, have somewhere in one of their half dozen names, George. Like Will and Kate's son is named George. Okay? So how is he saint-like? Because he's a martyr. Not all martyrs have to die. They can be wounded. Because all that word martyr means is witness. I'm a witness to this event, a testimony, as it were. Okay? So, they keep talking. Bill comes in, and Mrs. Weasley, this is probably, 77 or so. Bill comes in, and Mrs. Weasley says, thank God, thank God. Notice, they're starting to come a lot faster with the thank Gods. But then we hear Mad Eye's dead. That's the title of the chapter, Fallen Warrior. Harry felt as though something inside him was falling through the earth, leaving him forever. Bill says we saw it. Okay. About page 78, 79. They're now talking about all that happened. Harry's been given a shot of whiskey. We find out Mundungus had disappeared. And Bill says, I know what you're thinking. And I thought about it too on the way back here, because they seem to be expecting us. But Mundungus can't have betrayed us. They didn't know there would be 7 Harrys. That confused them the moment we appeared. And, in case you've forgotten, it was Mundungus who suggested that little bit of skullduggery. So why wouldn't he have told them the essential point? That is, if Mundungus was a traitor, he would have told them there were going to be 7 Potters and which one Harry would be with. I think Dung panicked. It's as simple as that. Tonks, you know who acted as Mad Eye expected him to. Mad Eye said he'd expect the real Harry to be with the toughest, most skilled Aurors. He chased Mad Eye first. That is, Mad Eye thought that Voldemort would think Harry would be with Mad Eye. Was Harry with a tough, skilled Auror? He's with Hagrid, a bumbling giant. So he chased Mad Eye first, and then he switched to Kingsley. And then Fleur says, yes, and that is all very good, but still he does not explain how they knew we were moving Harry tonight, does it? Somebody must have been careless. Somebody let slip the date to an outsider. It is the only explanation for them knowing the date, but not the whole plan. So, we have a traitor in our midst, according to Fleur. Harry, no. I mean, if somebody made a mistake, let something slip, I know they didn't mean to do it. It's not their fault. We've got to trust each other. I trust all of you. I don't think anyone in this room would ever sell me to Voldemort. Notice, we have to trust each other. On the basis of what? Faith? Prior experience. Okay? Fred, well said, Harry. Yeah, ear, says George, with half a glance at Fred. Harry looks at Lupin, who has a strange expression on his face. You think I'm a fool? No. I think you're like James, who would have regarded it as the height of dishonor to mistrust his friends. Yeah, but what's the point of that? What happened to James because he didn't mistrust his friends? He became among the unliving. He died as a result of that. Harry knew what Lupin was getting at. His father had been betrayed by his friend. So, Lupin asks Bill, come on, there's work to do. I can ask Kingsley. Bill, no, I'll do it. Where are you going? Mad Eye's body. We need to recover it. Mrs. Weasley, can't it? Like, can it wait? No. Not unless you'd rather the Death Eaters took it. Why don't they want the Death Eaters to take Mad Eye's body? What are they afraid of happening to it? Two things.
Like a disguise themselves as.
Not quite. They could turn it into an fairy, a zombie. Voldemort used them in the past. Snape said at the beginning of Book 6. He's likely to use them again. Why else?
The eye.
Louder?
The eye.
Okay. Is it because they want the eye? What does the military say?
No man left behind.
No man left behind. You don't leave a fallen warrior. Okay? They don't want the body desecrated. So Harry starts thinking, and he says, I've got to go. He's like, what? He says, you're all in danger while I'm here. If Voldemort finds out I'm here, Mrs. Weasley says, but why should he? Mr. Weasley, there's a dozen places you could be right now, Harry. Harry, I'm not worried about me. Well, of course not. We know that. You're worried about all of us. And we get this little paragraph. Didn't they understand that it was for precisely that reason that he wanted to go now before they had to suffer any more on his behalf? He doesn't want people suffering for him. Why? What does Harry usually do? Just flip it around. He usually suffers for others. And then he explains, when Hagrid says, wait till it gets out, you did it again, Harry. Harry, my wand acted of its own accord. And then Hermione says, but Harry, we all know that can't happen. And he says, no. Pike was falling. I couldn't have told you where Voldemort was. My wand, he says, spun in my hand, like the needle of a compass. Spun in my hand and found him and shot a spell at him. And it wasn't even a spell I recognized. I've never made gold flames appear before. But earlier, what are we told happens? The wand kind of goes, jerks his arm. Mr. Weasley, well, you know, sometimes when you're under a lot of pressure, you can do magic you never thought. Harry, shut up. It wasn't like that. Dumbledore would have believed him, skipping a few paragraphs. He knew it. Dumbledore would have known how and why Harry's wand had acted independently. Dumbledore always knew. He always had all the answers. But Dumbledore, like Mad Eye, like Sirius, like his parents, like his poor owl, all were gone where Harry could never talk to them again. They're all dead. And he feels a burning in his throat that doesn't have anything to do with the fire whiskey. And then he hears Voldemort's voice. And his forehead feels like it's about to explode. Okay? Ghoul in Pajamas, the next chapter. We're going to skip some of. I want to pick up on page 102. This is where Hermione explains about the Horcruxes. She says, once Dumbledore died, these protection spells that he put on the castle broke. so that she was able to get all of his books on Horcruxes and such. And she says, and the more I've read about them, the more horrible they seem, and the less I can believe he actually made 6. It warns in this book how unstable you make the rest of your soul by ripping it. And that's just by making one Horcrux. Harry remembered what Dumbledore had said about Voldemort moving beyond usual evil. Isn't there any way of putting yourself back together? Ron asked, like Humpty Dumpty. Yes, says Hermione with a hollow smile, but it would be excruciatingly painful. Harry, why? How do you do it? Remorse. You've got to really feel what you've done. Read Psalm 50 or 51. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a right spirit in me. A broken and contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. Okay? That psalm is traditionally thought to have been written by David after he sends Bathsheba's husband off to fight at the hottest part of the front lines because he's trying to get him killed so that he can marry her. This is after he's already slept with her and found out she's pregnant. He gets the husband assigned home for a couple of weekends, kind of R&R, but the guy is so honorable and good, he won't go home and sleep with his wife. He sleeps with the palace guard protecting David. So David finally says, the hell with this. Send him off to the front lines. Put him in the hottest part of the battle. Okay? And so he then writes this psalm because he's thoroughly convinced of his sinfulness. Remorse, said Hermione. You've got to really feel what you've done. And there's a footnote. Apparently the pain of it can destroy you. I don't see Voldemort attempting it somehow. Can you? No, says Ron. So does it say how to destroy Horcruxes? Notice that they're even thinking, will Voldemort maybe take this opportunity? Right? So they realize how you destroy a Horcrux, stabbing it with a basilisk fang and such. And on, what was that page? 602. So probably around 603. Ron asks, but even if we wreck the thing it lives in, why can't the bit of soul just go and live in something else? Hermione, because a Horcrux is the complete opposite of a human being. How so? Notice, a Horcrux is partial. It's a fragment. A human being is meant to be whole. Okay? A human being is meant to be a unity of body and soul. What is a Horcrux? It's not even a complete soul. It's a part of a soul that's been what? Removed from the body that it animates, that it gives life to. So, Hermione says the fragment of soul inside it, talking about the Horcrux, the fragment of soul inside it depends on its container, its enchanted body for survival. It can't exist without it. While the magical container is still intact, the bit of soul inside it can flit in and out of someone if they get too close to the object. I don't mean holding it for too long. I mean close emotionally. And she talks about Ginny. Ginny got emotionally close to the diary or to the voice of Tom Riddle in the diary, which allowed Tom Riddle to come out of the diary. All right? Go to chapter 7. The Will of Albus Dumbledore. How many pages are there? Harry sees another vision, this time of a man named Grigorovich, and they're at the Weasleys, page about, probably around 113 or so. Mrs. Weasley tells Harry, Arthur told me to wish you a happy birthday, and she gives him a watch. A watch is a traditional gift for a wizard male on his 17th birthday. She says it's traditional to give a wizard a watch when he comes of age, watching him anxiously. She says, I'm afraid that one isn't new like Ron's. It was actually my brother Fabian's, and he wasn't terribly careful with his possessions. It's a bit dented on the back. Well, why might it be dented on the back?
He was part of the order, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he was in battle?
Why does he not have the watch anymore? He was one of those killed. When Moody shows Harry the picture of the original order, he says, Fabian Pruitt, he and his brother Benji, I think it was, something like that, were both killed. Right? Scrimgeour shows up to read Dumbledore's will. And he tells Ron and Hermione and Harry, so you're surprised. You were not aware, this is around page 120. You were not aware that Dumbledore had left you anything? 120 or 121. I was like, no. Harry, why haven't you told us this before? Dumbledore's been dead for over a month. Why hasn't the will been read? He said, well, we had to go over the will. But Hermione says, no, it's because they wanted to examine whatever has left us. Right? So, he reads the will. The last will and testament of Albus Percival Wolfert Brian Dumbledore to Ronald Bilious Weasley. Bilious means full of bile. That's why Ron is hot-headed. Okay? Anger, spleen. He leaves the Deluminator in the hope that he will remember me when he uses it. The Deluminator. D, lumens, not anti-lights. It's the putter-outer. The thing that we saw Dumbledore use for the first time when he arrived at Privet Drive, and he went, and the 12 lights on the street went out. And he gives it to Ron. And he says, it's a valuable object. It's certainly of Dumbledore's own design. Why would he have left you it? Ron, I have no idea. Put out lights, I guess. Okay. To Miss Hermione Jean Granger, I leave my copy of the Tales of Beedle the Bard in the hope that she will find it entertaining and instructive. The Tales of Beedle the Bard is what?
Children's fairy tales.
Children's fairy tales. And Hermione's like, what? Okay. Why do you think Dumbledore left you that book? Hermione, he knew I liked books. But why that particular book? I don't know. Did you ever discuss codes or anything? She's like, shut up. Okay. To Harry James Potter, I leave the snitch he caught in his first Quidditch match at Hogwarts as a reminder of the rewards of perseverance and skill. And so he pulls out the snitch. Why did Dumbledore leave you this? Don't know. You think it's a mere symbolic keepsake? Guess so. Okay. I notice your birthday cake is in the shape of a snitch. Why is that? Hermione, can't be a reference to the fact that Harry's a great seeker. That's way too obvious. In other words, there must be some deep hidden secret. Page 127. Okay. So Scrimgeour instructs them. A snitch is not touched by bare skin before it is released, not even by the maker who wears gloves. It carries an enchantment by which it can identify the first human to lay hands on it, in case of a disputed capture. This snitch will remember your touch, Potter. It occurs to me that Dumbledore, who had prodigious magical skill, whatever his other faults, might have enchanted this snitch so that it will open only for you. Harry, okay. So what's in it? Don't know. Harry takes it. It doesn't open. How did Harry capture the snitch? First match. He nearly swallowed it. Okay? So it would take Harry to put the snitch to his mouth to get it to open. So Hermione says, that's it? That's all? He says, no. He also left you the sword of Godric Gryffindor. Where is it? Unfortunately, that sword was not Dumbledore's to give away. That sword is an important historical artifact, and as such belongs, Hermione says, to Harry. It chose him. He was the one who found it. It came to him out of the Sorting Hat. That's an interesting little detail, okay? Because what Hermione seems to be implying there is that Dumbledore didn't have the sword before it came out of the hat. That the sword hadn't been at Hogwarts prior to that. That the sword had been, in fact, missing. Nobody knew that it still existed. But when Harry suddenly needed it, out of the Sorting Hat it comes. Okay? Scrimgeour, according to reliable historical sources, the sword may present itself to any worthy Gryffindor. That does not make it the exclusive property of Mr. Potter. What do you think? Maybe he thought it looked nice on my wall. Okay? Did he give you the sword because he believed that you were the one destined to destroy he who must not be named? Harry, interesting theory. Anybody ever try sticking a sword in Voldemort? People are dying, Minister. I was nearly one of them. Voldemort chased me across 3 counties. He killed Mad-Eye Moody. But there's no word about any of that from the ministry, is there? And you still expect us to help you? You go too far. You're not at school. I'm not Dumbledore who forgave your insolence and insubordination. You may wear that scar like a crown, Potter, but it's not up to a 17-year-old boy to tell me how to do my job. Is Harry a 17-year-old boy anymore? No. He's come into his own. He is a man. He is a legal adult. It's time you learned some respect. It's time you earned it. And then Harry says, I don't like your methods, Minister, and holds his wrist up. Remember? Right? And Harry remembers the snitch, and just before the end of the chapter, around page 135, he sees the handwriting in it. I open at the close. Because he put his mouth to the snitch. He remembered, oh, I didn't handle it. I almost caught it. Almost swallowed it. Puts his mouth to it, it doesn't open. But writing appears. I open at the close. And Harry doesn't have a clue what that means. We'll stop there. We'll pick up with the chapter of the wedding on Tuesday. We will finish this by a week from today.